cinema and your skills of making movies, do you think they are so close? Really?
Well, two things. One, that was. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm terrible at languages. I apologize. I'm really bad. I wanted to point out though, because you cut around between the thriller and American Werewolf. In American Werewolf, it was written to be in bright light with no cutaways. So that's like a terrible thing to do to Rick Baker, to the makeup artist. So in Thriller, I use every trick. It's in the dark. We keep cutting to the girl screaming. In American Werewolf, we have Sam Cooke singing Blue Moon. In Thriller, we've got bah, bah, bah. I mean, I used all the tricks, the cheating in Thriller that I couldn't do in Werewolf. But anyway, yes, fear, laughter and fear, they're not, I don't want to say they're similar, but what they have in common is they're both involuntary. They're spasms. They're spasms. You go, ha! Or you go, they're not like a prepared response. They're physical responses. But yeah, I mean, I think everything's similar. I think comedy and tragedy is. Do you know Mel Brooks? Mel Brooks said, he was asked, how do you define, what's the difference between comedy and tragedy? And he said, comedy is when an old woman carrying a bunch of groceries down the street trips and falls and spills everything. Tragedy is when I cut myself shaving. But it's, but the point well taken is that it's perspective and it's in context. See, one of the reasons I hate clips is because they're not in context. Everything's context. When people say, is there anything you can't do? The answer is no. You can deal with any subject, you can do anything, but it's in context. It depends on context. Which of course you're completely destroying.
Cioè direi che è un punto stilistico che si tratta di due tecniche completamente diverse. In the American Werewolf, the transformation scene was with the stop motion.
No, it's not.
No,
No, it's all practical.
The hair.
No, you want to know how he did the hair? It's so simple. He took latex that was stippled, to look like skin. And they had, when they poured the mold of the latex, they had long hair, right? And then he put, all the long hair was attached to a handle. Right, and so it was there, and we film it, and he just pulled the hair through and out. And then we ran the film backwards. All film illusion tends to be very simple. You don't want to tell everything, but the best tricks are simple ones. The stuff one of the things that you talk about cinema, and movie making, what surprised me is that people who learn how to make movies now know about things because you can do things now, like for instance, now with digital wire removal, you can take, like if you have a stunt or something, they can be in a big safety harness and be on a big rope or big wire, and then later, you remove it. Well, I've made so many movies where we have to spend hours lighting and figuring out how to hide the wire. Now you show them, it doesn't matter because you're stripping them. And so I had this strange thing that happened on what's it called, Burke and Hare, where we're shooting in Stirling Castle, and it's a scene with Isla Fisher and Simon Pegg. And Isla's wearing a big bonnet, and it's, two shots, they're there talking, they're looking at a poster. And there's this wonderful building behind them with great architecture that's perfect. I said, I want that. But on the roof of the building on the side is a big air conditioning unit. And the building, is old, but it has this big thing, big horrible box. So I said, well, let's frame it so that you don't see it. So we put it there. And I look at the camera, I go, what? Because he had it, and the camera operator said, well, you'll just get rid of it later. You'll just digitize that. I said, yeah, that'll cost $5,000. Why would I want to do that? They said, well, how are you, why worry about it? I said, watch. And I moved Isla 1 foot this way, and her bonnet hit it. And they were like, but it's interesting because on Ridley Scott movies, they don't do that. They do it later. They say, we'll do it later. You know? I mean, just certain things that are tricks that Méliès work just as well. Another one, on American Werewolf from London, we had to have a shot where we go from Jenny Agutter, made 54 feature films a year. Fox made 52 feature films a year. Columbia made 50 feature films a year. Paramount made 54 feature films a year. They were making, out of Hollywood was coming almost 1,000 movies a year. Well, when you have 1,000 movies, the odds are better. When you have 3 movies, the odds go down about quality, So it's tough, I mean, how do you deal with, do you know this movie, Jackass?
Yes.
Well, this movie, Jackass 3D, opened to $55 million. It's one of the biggest openings ever. It's a movie in which you're watching people get hurt. For real. So as a filmmaker, you go like, because it's like, what? And it's just fashion and the zeitgeist and what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes movies, I had a great thing happen. I came, where was I? I was in Roma, Milan. I don't know where I was. It was in Italy. And I was doing promotion for some movie. I've forgotten which. Was it Oscar? And this journalist stood up and he said, the American imperialism, Hollywood filmmaking, you make it so that no one can make a yada, 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 and the Italian theaters are playing the just going on and on, and it was so great because I got to say, excuse me, what's the biggest grossing film in Italy right now? Il Mostro. And he went, well, that doesn't count. And what people don't understand about what's called Hollywood is that Hollywood has always been the international film business. Always. It's been always the center of international filmmaking. Now, the Italian cinema had a great domestic cinema, of course, but who's a Hollywood movie star? In silence. Greta Garbo. Charles Boyer. Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like Sophia Loren. Who's a movie star? And it's who's the great Hollywood directors? Billy Wilder. Alfred Hitchcock. It's always been that way. It's always been the big international film market. Now the tragedy is that with the homogenous, world cultures being, it's kind of sad, destroyed by new technologies and globalization. How long are you going to be able to keep people living in tents, in mud, when they have a dish and they watch, 90210? They watch television, they go, why aren't we living like that? It's just, what brought down the Iron Curtain? Dallas. I'm serious. What was the collapse of communism in the Soviet bloc? Television. Because they were, comrade, we're getting fucked. It's an interesting thing. And so what's happened that's kind of sad, I used to like, when you go to a country, you go to Rome, you go to London, you go to Paris, you go to San Francisco, you go to New York, you go to Tokyo, you go to Rio de Janeiro, you buy the local souvenir, the local. Now all those local things in Rio de Janeiro, in Rome, in London, they're made in China. All of them, everywhere. And it's a strange time. And the tragedy is that, the domestic box office doesn't work. In France, for instance, there's a healthy French cinema because the government subsidies, those movies don't make any money, but they don't have to. So they can really make interesting, they can really take risks. The big French films now are just like Hollywood movies. They're no different.